On May the 5th of 2024, Pastor Glenn Germany was live streaming a Sunday sermon at the Jesus' Dwelling Place Church in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, when a man walked in with a pistol in hand. 26-year-old Bernard Polite was caught on stream calmly aiming the weapon at the pastor's head, prompting the latter to cower behind the microphone podium. Polite then menacingly made his way towards him but was tackled from behind and immobilized by the church deacon. In the moments that followed, the latter and Germany were seen in the footage wrestling the gun out of Polite's hands. As the gunman was pinned down, he reportedly apologized to Germany, who replied that he forgave him. Germany later recounted that Polite had told him spirits got in his mind and told him to open fire. As law enforcement arrived to take Polite into custody, officers showed Germany that the gunman had pulled the trigger, but the weapon jammed and the bullet became stuck in the chamber. The pastor was quoted as telling WPXY, "God jammed the gun so the bullet didn't come out." After seeing reports of the church attack, the relatives of Polite's cousin, 56-year-old Derek, performed a wellness check at his home in the 500 block of Stokes Avenue in Braddock. He was found dead from gunshot wounds, and it was determined that Polite had shot him with the same gun that was recovered from the church. There was no indication of a struggle at the residence, and the police determined that Derek had been shot as he was walking up the steps from the first floor to the second. Witnesses reported hearing a gunshot at around 10 a.m. In addition to the murder charge he faced in connection to his cousin's death, Polite was charged with attempted criminal homicide, aggravated assault, and recklessly endangering another person for the church incident. Number 7. Elisa Jordana. 35-year-old Elisa Jordana, a former employee of the Howard Stern Show, went viral in April of 2024 following an altercation with fiancé Bahram Alipour, also known as Zakoro. While driving in Palm Beach, Florida on April the 8th, Jordana was live streaming on YouTube as she and Alipour were returning from a couple's counseling session. During the stream, she held up a cell phone to the camera showing the Venmo account of a woman named Sarah Rodriguez, with whom Jordana alleged that her fiancé was having an affair and to whom he'd reportedly sent thousands of dollars. Rodriguez then called into the live stream. Shortly after greeting the woman, Jordana began violently striking Alipour in the chest and shoulder. Jordana, who'd dubbed herself the Queen of IRL streaming, then told Rodriguez that she'd found nudes of her and messages from her on Alipour's phone and that she was going to text them to her. Alipour, who was the son of a wealthy Beverly Hills businessman, then said to the other woman, "Sarah, I'm sorry about this." In a split second, Jordana smacked him in the face and ordered him not to talk. As the man recovered from the strike, he repeatedly called his fiancée the C word and threatened to retaliate if she hit him again. The tense conversation between an enraged Jordana and Rodriguez progressed to the latter pleading with the streamer not to release the photos she had of her. The situation reached a boiling point when Jordana turned towards Alipour and told him, "I'm going to kill you. You're going to be dead," before she grabbed and pulled on his ear. Alipour reacted by twisting his fiancée's arm, yanking her by the hair and commanding her to pull over. He maintained his grasp on the woman's hair and told Rodriguez to call 911. While she was in obvious agony, Jordana repeatedly said she was sorry and pleaded with Alipour to let her go. The man tried to drag her out of the vehicle's front passenger side by her hair, but she ultimately exited through the driver's side. In the incident's wake, Jordana, who in 2021 was briefly engaged to comedian Andy Dick, was arrested by the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office and charged with felony battery. Law enforcement had reviewed the footage and found that only her actions warranted charges. The woman later told TMZ that she was actually the victim and that she was grateful for the live stream as it had likely prevented Alipour from causing her more harm. The woman claimed, "If I was alone, I could definitely be dead right now. That's how I feel." Number 6. Ramzi Khalid Ismail. American Somali kick streamer Ramzi Khalid Ismail, better known as Johnny Somali, made headlines in the summer of 2023 after visiting Japan and harassing residents through a series of racist and taunting antics. While in public areas or on public transportation, he recorded himself making comments about the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, often while putting on a crass accent, and also made threats of attacking Japan with nuclear weapons. His behavior resulted in him being arrested and assaulted. While recorded by companion Jeremiah Dwayne Branch, Ismail yelled in reference to the major nuclear accident from 2011 at workers on a construction site in Osaka. He was kicked out and arrested on suspicion of trespassing. Ismail was again arrested on conspiracy of obstruction of business for playing loud noises and music at a restaurant during business hours. His antics eventually resulted in him being fined in early 2024, after which he voluntarily returned to the US. During his Japan campaign of harassment, Ismail was attacked in public multiple times, much to the reported delight of his viewers. On June the 10th of 2023, as he spoke into the camera and interacted with his audience, he was suddenly charged from behind, placed in a rear naked choke and tackled to the ground. His camera went black and Ismail was heard pleading with his attacker to stop. Still dazed from the ambush, Ismail eventually grabbed his phone saying he was all right. A clip posted to X on September the 12th of 2023 showed Ismail and a companion getting pummeled by an unnamed American tourist during a live stream. The man, enraged by the duo's taunting behavior, was first recorded throwing a powerful punch and knocking out Ismail's companion. In the moments that followed, he delivered a crushing blow to Ismail as well, flooring him and his camera. After the device landed on the ground on its side, the two streamers were captured staggering back to their feet. Number 5. Pedro Luis Toala Rezabala. On the night of October the 17th of 2023, Pedro Luis Toala Rezabala was live streaming outside his home in Puerto Viejo, Ecuador. In the past, 33-year-old Rezabala, who was known as Lagrimita, had survived a murder attempt that left him wheelchair-bound. He had a lengthy criminal record that included robbery, drug trafficking, violent behavior, and illegally possessing weapons. Rezabala was also reported to have witnessed a homicide in his family at some point. As the 33-year-old was interacting with his audience on October the 17th, two men on a motorbike pulled up in front of him. The man sitting at the back got off and aimed a pistol at Rezabala, who consequently drew his own handgun. A shootout ensued. As the attacking duo retreated, a third man approached Rezabala from behind and shot him in the back of the head at point-blank range. During the live stream, Rezabala had inadvertently captured his own execution. CCTV would show the man's lifeless body slumped in his wheelchair. A friend who was with the victim managed to escape the shooting unscathed, and as of the latest updates on the matter, the attackers hadn't been identified. Number 4. Juan Jumalon. 57-year-old radio presenter Juan Jumalon, also known as DJ Johnny Walker, was broadcasting from a house in Calamba in the Philippines in the fall of 2023. While Jumalon was streaming on Facebook Live, two men walked to the gate of the residence, with one of them claiming that he had an announcement about some lost belongings. A staffer agreed to grant them access to the property, at which point one of the men held them at gunpoint. In the moments that followed, as captured on CCTV and as shown on the live stream, the other intruder opened fire on Jumalon. He was shot twice in the back portion of his head and in the lower lip. The harrowing aftermath on the still-running live stream showed Jumalon bleeding from his mouth while lively instrumental music played in the background. The gunman snatched his gold chain before fleeing on a motorcycle with a third accomplice. Jumalon was pronounced dead on arrival at a local hospital. In the spring of 2024, local law enforcement announced the arrest of the trio involved in the attack. The man accused of executing the radio broadcaster was identified as Jolieto Mangumpit. His accomplices were cousins Boboy Sagaray Bonkawel, who was the supporting gunman, and Renate Saja Bonkawel, who'd driven the getaway motorcycle. Local police reported that Mangumpit was one of the most wanted criminals in the Mishaps Occidental province and had 8 separate outstanding warrants for murder and narcotics offenses. He and the others were charged with murder and theft for the attack on Jumalon. Number 3. Zoe. A California high school senior was expelled in the spring of 2024 after she'd live-streamed the fight as it unfolded at Ayala High School in Chino Hills. The teen, only identified as Zoe in media reports, played no role in the altercation aside from filming it. She told CBS, "In our generation, you go live to do makeup, to do everything. So It was just going live, just to go live. It wasn't my intent to purposely or try to cause harm to anyone. She was accused of violating education codes, including cyberbullying, intimidation, harassment, and attempting to cause injury. Zoe believed that the Chino Valley Unified School District had decided to make an example out of her by expelling her as well as banning her from attending her prom, for which she'd reportedly already bought a dress. The team was also banned from walking in commencement. In her expulsion letter, the board wrote that her presence on the campus would present a continued danger. Zoe and her family were given the opportunity of appealing the decision, but in the meantime, the team would have to continue her education elsewhere. Today's topic was requested by SOS1518 and Dove Master. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Paul Danino. On September the 22nd of 2023, popular US streamer Paul Danino, known as Ice Poseidon online, was arrested in Brisbane, Australia for a live stream stunt involving an escort. During a 24-hour kick live stream, Danino recorded himself arranging by phone to pay an extra $100 to the woman if she agreed to have the rendezvous set to take place at Brisbane's Festival Towers captured on camera. Upon arrival to the room, the escort was met by a man only named as Andy, who was wearing purple boxer shorts and a t-shirt. He pointed to the camera as soon as the woman entered the room, and she was spooked by the sound of stream donations that were played over a Bluetooth speaker. She asked Andy how many people were watching, but he lied, telling her that their encounter was only streamed for a few friends. He then paid her $500, after which they began kissing and fondling each other. The escort suddenly stopped when she received a message on her cell phone. She read it aloud and said, "Get out, it's a setup," adding, "Guys are hiding in the bedroom watching on the live stream." Danino and his English sidekick, Sam Pepper, had indeed been hiding in the room, prompting a live stream viewer to alert the escort. The woman then described the situation as really creepy and tried to get out, but Andy temporarily blocked the door with his foot, demanding a return of the money he'd paid her. Kick founder and owner Ed Craven reacted in the chat with laughing emojis when the stunt backfired. After the escort eventually left, Danino and Pepper appeared on screen, with the former telling Andy that he was wrong for holding the door shut. Danino and Pepper left the hotel shortly thereafter and continued live streaming their night. While on the street, they were approached by multiple police officers and arrested for assault of an intimate nature, which they repeatedly denied. The streamers were ultimately released with no further charges after investigators concluded that a consensual encounter had occurred. The incident added to Danino's notoriety, as the streamer was known for several other controversial stunts. He and his followers, who called themselves the Purple Army, had been accused in the streaming community of toxic behavior that involved alleged misogyny, racial vilification, and harassment. In June of that same year, Danino was arrested in Bangkok, Thailand, and faced spending 5 years behind bars for distributing obscene content. During a live stream from a hotel bar, Danino was wearing a sheer basque and fishnet stockings. He then proceeded to give a lap dance to a woman believed to be his girlfriend at the time and smear food in her face. After his arrest by local authorities, 29-year-old Danino posted an apology video to his social media. By mid-August, he announced that the charges against him had been dropped and that he'd left Thailand. Stay tuned till after number 1, because we've got 11 wild shootings that were caught on camera lined up. Number 1. Whitney Beale. Florida woman Whitney Beale made headlines in October of 2015 after she live-streamed herself on Periscope while intoxicated behind the wheel. The 23-year-old slurred her words, and she blatantly told her viewers, "I'm driving home drunk," prompting some of them to express concern. The Lakeland Police Department stopped Beale sometime later, and as per an official report, her inebriation was evident due to the odor of alcohol on her breath and the fact that she failed field sobriety tests. While en route to the police station, the young woman threw up in the back of the police vehicle. On February the 9th of the following year, she pleaded no contest to DUI. It was her first such offense, and she was sentenced to 12 months probation as well as alcohol treatment and various driving penalties. For live streaming while drunk driving, Beale received an enhanced sentence, as she was accused of publicly flaunting her disregard for the safety of the community. It involved doing 150 hours of community service and 10 days of weekend work release. In Sao Paulo, Brazil, a would-be motorcycle thief who attempted to pull off a daring heist at a traffic light was shot by a police officer coming home from work. A rider on a Honda motorcycle was seen speeding down a street overtaking cars before slowing down at an intersection because of busy traffic. After he was forced to slow down, two men on another bike subsequently pulled up in front of him in the middle of the intersection. The man on the back of that bike, later identified as 35-year-old Escalante Leonardo Santos, pulled out a .38 caliber handgun and pointed it at the victim, ordering him off his Honda, which he did. As Santos was about to pull away, a police officer got out of a vehicle across the intersection. The officer then fired 2 shots at Santos, causing him to fall to the ground as the other suspect bled. According to the Brazilian newspaper Folha, Santos had gunshot wounds in the stomach and leg. He was rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. It was unclear if he survived. The Sao Paulo Civil Police released a statement saying that the action of the officer was justified. The entire incident was caught on the theft victim's helmet camera. The footage was posted on YouTube in October of 2013. A YouTube user who commented on the video post claimed that the other suspect was apprehended shortly after the incident. Number 10. Sean Cowie. In January of 2021, police in Manchester, England, launched an investigation after an innocent bystander reported that his car had been struck by a stray bullet during a shootout in the suburb of Harpuri. After a trawl scanning through CCTV footage in the area, investigators found the moment that 32-year-old Sean Cowie, who was in the backseat of a dark grey BMW X5, pointed a gun at a black Volkswagen Golf that he and his 2 accomplices were chasing near a primary school on Briscoe Lane. The BMW was being driven by 39-year-old Dean Urey, and 43-year-old Paul Ryan was identified to have been in the car as well. According to Sky News, Cowie, Ryan and Urey eventually pleaded guilty to a number of offences in court after police presented them with the evidence. In March of 2022, Cowie was jailed for 5 years and 7 months for conspiracy with intent to cause fear or violence. Ryan was handed a 6.5-year sentence for possession of a shotgun without a license and conspiracy with intent to cause fear or violence. Urey was sentenced to 5 years and 4 months in prison for conspiracy with intent to cause fear or violence. Number 9. William Kyle Carruth. On November the 5th of 2021, a Texas man fatally shot his partner's ex-husband during an ongoing child custody dispute. The deadly confrontation was caught on cell phone video, which later went viral on social media. 54-year-old Chad Reed went to a Lubbock residence located on 90th Street to pick up his children. The home belonged to his estranged wife's new partner, William Kyle Carruth. Footage showed that upon Chad's arrival, he started arguing with his ex-wife, Christina. During Chad and Christina's ensuing argument, Carruth was at the home's porch but subsequently went inside the residence. Chad continued the verbal dispute with Christina when moments later, Carruth came back out with a rifle yelling, "Leave!" setting off a deadly confrontation on the porch. The men were suddenly inches from each other's face, and when Chad attempted to grab the rifle, Carruth moved away from the porch and fired a shot at Chad. The latter instantly fell to the floor and appeared unconscious. When authorities arrived, Chad had already died. In the aftermath, the Office of the Attorney General, acting as Attorney Pro Tem, presented the investigation into the ordeal to a special grand jury of Lubbock County. According to KCBD, the presentation of the case included several eyewitnesses, including the family of Chad, and additional evidence. After a thorough inspection of the evidence, the special grand jury concluded their investigation on April the 1st of 2022. They reportedly voted not to indict criminal charges against Carruth because the argument was on his property and the shooting had been in self-defense. Number 8. Shooting in North Philadelphia. In the wake of a shooting that transpired on May the 30th of 2022, the city of Philadelphia is offering a reward of $20,000 for information leading to an arrest and conviction. Shortly before 7 p.m. on the evening in question, 2 Pennsylvania men were shot on the 1700 block of West Oxford Street. The 23-year-old victim was critically injured, while the other victim, aged 26, succumbed to his injuries on the scene. According to law enforcement, both victims were intentionally targeted. authorities released surveillance video from the footage showing 4 of the suspects in a stolen vehicle. 3 of the suspects got out of a vehicle, spread out on the street and ambushed the 2 victims. The video also revealed that the driver of the vehicle also fired a handgun at the victims as he slowly drove through the intersection, waiting for the other 3 suspects to return to the vehicle. When everything was said and done, nearly 70 shots had been fired by the gunman. The homicide unit of the Philadelphia Police Department is still seeking the suspects. As of October 2023, subsequent information indicated that the vehicle was recovered, but not a single arrest has been made. Number 7. Roger Hurd Jr. Attorneys representing the family of a Tennessee man who'd been fatally shot by police at a Chattanooga gas station asserted that the officers had used excessive force and had violated the victim's constitutional rights. Officers in plain clothes reportedly attempted to arrest 34-year-old Roger Hurd on multiple warrants on August the 11th of 2023. During the confrontation, officers allegedly shot Hurd even when he was already on the ground. Attorneys representing Hurd's family said that the officers acted recklessly and irresponsibly upon serving the warrant at the Speedway gas station where the incident took place. Hurd's parents spoke to the media on September the 13th, calling on the community for additional footage of the shooting to be released publicly. Following the incident, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation investigated at the direction of District Attorney Coty Wamp. Surveillance video at the crime scene released by Wamp's office showed a glimpse of what had transpired. According to Wamp's statement, the video showed Hurd firing at officers first before they returned fire. Wamp cited Hurd's criminal history, which included aggravated burglary, felony convictions for selling drugs, and firearm violations. The 3 officers involved in Hurd's shooting, namely Seltane Batterson, Christopher Dias, and Nicholas Ayers, were placed on paid administrative leave. A Chattanooga Police Department spokesperson stated that Dias and Ayers were on leave for 7 days. Batterson, who was shot during the incident, was placed back on modified duty 13 days after the shooting while he continued his recovery. The district attorney will decide whether to charge the officers involved pending the outcome of the TBI's investigation. Number 6. Masked shooter at large. The Philadelphia Police Department and the Shooting Investigation Group sought the public's assistance for information in a somewhat bizarre and unexplained shooting incident that occurred on July the 20th of 2022. A 34-year-old Pennsylvania man was shot in both legs while standing outside of a local grocery store at 41st Street and Lancaster Avenue at approximately 6:40 p.m. He was reportedly transported to Penn Presbyterian Hospital and listed in stable condition. The gunman allegedly arrived and then absconded in a blue Hyundai Santa Fe. According to Chief Inspector Scott Small, the victim ran inside a store when the gunshots began. The masked gunman subsequently followed the victim into the store and fired 2 more times. Small also said that the entire shooting was captured on nearby surveillance cameras. No motives had been determined and no arrests were reported as of the latest updates. Number 5. Darius Miles and Michael Lynn Davis. A grand jury in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, indicted Darius Miles and Michael Lynn Davis with capital murder in the death of 23-year-old Jamir Janae Harris. The incident unfolded in the early hours of January the 15th of 2023. According to Harris's family, Harris and her boyfriend went to a club with other friends and then stopped on the way home to grab something to eat with her cousin. While they were sitting in the car waiting for their food, one of the suspects allegedly approached their vehicle and was trying to talk to Harris. She and her cousin then said they didn't want to talk because they had a boyfriend, to which the suspect responded by telling them they didn't know who he was and said, "I smack people." In fear of what might happen, Harris's group decided to leave immediately. They were, however, blocked from leaving, and one of the suspects started approaching the car with a gun, to which her boyfriend reacted by reaching for his own gun. Almost immediately, the sound of at least 10 consecutive gunshots rang out, captured by a nearby Ring doorbell camera and causing passers-by to flee in fear. Harris's boyfriend maneuvered the car away from the scene, but it was already too late. Harris got hit once as she sat in the passenger seat, and she was later pronounced dead at the scene. Police said that after reviewing surveillance footage and interviewing several witnesses, investigators determined the identities of the suspects in the shooting. 21-year-old Miles and 20-year-old Davis were arrested in an area near the Tuscaloosa campus known as the Strip. Court documents indicated that Davis was accused of firing the gun that killed the young woman. Investigators believe that even though the gun used to kill Harris belonged to Miles, that Davis pulled the trigger. The killing of Harris became a major storyline around the Alabama's Crimson Tide men's basketball team, as Miles, who played as a forward for the NCAA team, was kicked off the team in the wake of the shooting. As of the latest updates, Miles and Davis pleaded not guilty and were jailed without bond while awaiting trial. Number 4. Vanessa Singletary Selby. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 7 people were shot shortly before 2:30 p.m. on September the 20th of 2021. Local law enforcement responded to the 1300 block of West Chew Avenue, where they found one of the victims, identified as Stephen Jones, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. The 26-year-old was transported to Albert Einstein Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead shortly before 3 p.m. The other victims were also taken to the hospital and placed in stable condition. According to the police, Jones was standing on a crowded sidewalk when the shooter opened fire from inside a car. Surveillance footage revealed that the crowd of people dropped to the ground in an attempt to dodge the bullets being fired from a silver Chrysler sedan. 5 months later, 28-year-old Vanessa Singletary Selby was arrested in connection with the incident. Investigators said Singletary Selby allegedly ordered the hit in retaliation for a dispute with one of the victims, who was wounded in the shooting. She was charged with homicide and conspiracy and denied bail. CBS News reported that Singletary Selby hadn't been cooperative, and the identity of the shooter remained unknown. Number 3. Anbria D. Murnahan. An Ohio woman accused of shooting a gun into the air on June the 27th of 2021 in the 300 block of Bulkley Avenue in Mansfield turned herself into authorities. Glimpses of the incident were caught on video by a witness. It showed the suspect firing 2 rounds from a semi-automatic handgun during an altercation. The suspect, later identified as 25-year-old Anbria D. Murnahan, fled the scene in a vehicle before officers arrived. Murnahan was identified through tips received from residents. Major Crimes served a search warrant at her residence on June the 30th and recovered items believed to be used during the crime, including a firearm. However, she was not at home. She did, however, turn herself in the following day and was booked into the Richland County Jail. She was charged with 2 counts of third-degree felony discharging a firearm on or over a road. In March of 2022, the Mansfield News Journal reported that Murnahan was sentenced to 3 years of probation. Number 2. Salvatore Zottola. 41-year-old Salvatore Zottola, who was the son of a reputed associate of an infamous Italian-American crime family, was shot at around 6:30 a.m. on July the 11th of 2018. The incident, which took place outside his residence in the Bronx, New York, was captured on surveillance video. Footage showed Salvatore rolling on the street in an apparent attempt to avoid being shot by a gunman in a dark-colored sedan. The unidentified assailant got out of the passenger seat of the vehicle and shot Salvatore multiple times before fleeing the scene. The victim sustained several shots to his torso and left hand, as well as graze wounds to his head. He was hospitalized in critical condition but survived. 3 months later, his father, 71-year-old Sylvester Zottola, was shot several times and killed while ordering at a Bronx McDonald's drive-thru. According to police, Sylvester had been a reputed crime figure who was affiliated with the Bonanno crime family. Investigators initially believed that the attempts on the father and son's lives were mob hits or a former business associate wanting them dead, but they didn't find enough evidence to support that theory. Meaningful developments came about after a tracking device on Sylvester's car was found by investigators. It revealed that Salvatore's younger brother, Anthony Zottola Sr., was behind the attacks. Anthony was allegedly trying to take over his father's $45 million real estate empire. According to court records, he had schemed against his family for more than a year, paying an accumulated amount of more than $200,000 to hire killers. Anthony was arrested on June the 17th of 2019. 3 years later, he was convicted of murder for hire, conspiracy to commit murder for hire, and firearms offenses. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Number 1. Shamika Burton. A Michigan woman wanted for her involvement in a shooting at a Project Greenlight gas station in Detroit was caught on high-definition video. The incident, which unfolded on March the 20th of 2016, began shortly after 4 a.m. when the woman and 4 other people traveling in a Dodge Charger pulled up to the gas station on Fenkel Street near Greenfield Road. They reportedly drove up alongside a Pontiac Grand Prix. According to Detroit police, an argument erupted between the people in both cars. The woman retrieved a gun from her car and put it in her skirt. She then walked to the Grand Prix and fired multiple times into the other car, striking the driver more than once. The driver, who was being shot at, tried to get away, knocking down one of the men from the blue Charger in his attempts to do so. At that moment, another man was able to wrestle the gun away from the shooter, and both cars quickly left the scene. The injured man was taken to a local hospital where he was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Through the security footage taken from the gas station, investigators identified the woman as 20-year-old Shamika Burton. She and an unidentified male were arrested on the same day. In July of 2016, Burton pleaded guilty to armed robbery charges and pleaded no contest to assault and weapons charges. A Wayne County judge later accepted the pleas and sentenced her to 10 to 20 years for assault with intent, 2 years for weapons charges, and 2 to 5 years on other charges. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be the star of a reality show or play the main character in a soap opera? Let us know in the comment section below.